Welcome back, friends. We are about to dive into HBO's The Penguin. This is the long-awaited sequel from Rob Patt's version of The Batman. I did get to do a quick little experience in San Diego Comic-Con, but the hype for this show is extraordinary. This has been a long time coming, honestly, for DC in general, especially after the last few films that had been released, Wonder Woman 1984, and then The Flash, which I personally enjoyed but hated all the context, and honestly the Ezra Miller of it all kind of ruins it. So unfortunately, as much as I would have loved that, it ranks low due to the Ezra Miller of it all. But all that to say, DC has had such a rocky start, middle, and end of its career, and hopefully what it seems like is this movie is going to act as the resurgence for this entire franchise, because it is a lot. I will say it is a thick boy. She is dense. She is a lot. So if you are not in the correct mind frame for this, please do not watch it, because there is a lot of material coming at you. I'm going to do a very quick non-spoiler review. Then I'm going to talk about some subject matter that I think is really important and would behoove you to get some research on if you really want to contextualize and understand the Batman as a whole. And then I'm going to give you my really quick impressions of the first episode of The Batman. So just starting off, my non-spoiler review of The Batman is, it is beautiful. I think cinematically it is beautiful. I think that the dialogue is stunning, and I really feel like, especially with Colin Farrell's The Penguin, we see him on a deeper level than we did before. I mean, physically even, you get to see things with the Penguin that you never could see in comics, at least to my knowledge. If it's out there, please send me photos. Hit me up in my DMs and show me the physical photos of his ailments, because this is the first time in this show where you get to truly see it, and it puts you on a deeper level. There were moments when I was watching this show and I had to remind myself that he's a bad guy, and you feel that. There are moments in this show where you're like, well, that's a bad guy. And then you have moments where he is so honest and truthful and raw and real, and you see how a man like this could get to the depths and the levels and the misunderstanding, especially because he has that Hunchback of Notre Dame style. But we see the Hunchback of Notre Dame and we see him being coy and shy and still being a humble and nice person. He's not out there murderizing people. But you could see how easy that flip of the coin is. And I think that that's what that's why I love DC so much, because these are real people, and the steps that we get to the Poison Ivies, the Penguins, the Mr. Freezes. The reason why they become these villains is because they want so deeply and so strongly to achieve something that everyday people want. You know, Mr. Freeze just wants to save his wife. He's a doctor who's trying to find a cure for his wife. The Penguin is just a misunderstood mama's boy who just wants to be seen as more than who he is. It's just the means by which, and the struggles that Gotham City puts upon these individuals that forces them into these extremities. But man, do they do this well. I was finding myself so just enraptured with this show. And I will say at times, because I watched the first 2 episodes of Agatha and then tried to watch this. I think I should have watched this one on its own. And of course I'm taking my notes as well. So it was just kind of a lot coming at me all at once. This is a heavily emotional first episode. And I think having wanted this for so long and it's finally here, I think a lot of that was emotionally draining as well. But this is just a heavy episode and a heavy show, but it makes you latch on to these characters so quickly and so viscerally in the first few moments that you watch it. So I'm really excited for the journey of each and every one of these characters, especially with the performance of Kristen Milioti. I mean, that's my twins. I talk about her big eyes a lot, but in this show, I feel like there's so much behind them, and in the eyes of it, she is this show. I think that she plays Sophia so well. I always thought that the mother was made for her in How I Met Your Mother, that just warmth and that joy and that energy. But man, does she play psychopath well. So those are my quick little thoughts of the show. I'm excited to see where this journey goes. But what I will say, my final thoughts, is I love what DC is doing, and really all comic book shows are doing, is they give you just enough comic book knowledge that you're not only For those who do read comic books, excited that they put that in there. But for those who don't read comic books, they give you just enough that makes you want to learn more and read more and become educated all the more. And I really think they did this in this first episode as well. Pausing there because I want to talk about all of that now. So now getting into how you can further enjoy this show without getting into the spoilers. It's a little bit spoilery, but also 100% not spoilery. So if you don't just want to watch the show for what it is, go ahead. Everything I'm about to say is not spoilery at all. It's just some comic book knowledge that if you read it and you have that, or if you watch, I think they did a few movies of these. So if you watch those before you watch this episode, you'll have more understanding of those little asides and those little comments that they're making. So again, not spoiler, but just something that's going to aid you. But if you want to go completely into it without any of this context, it still works. But here you go. So the big things that you obviously have to watch is the Batman, Rob Pat's Batman. That's obvious. Please watch that so you kind of understand what's going on in the world around, because while Rob Pat's is not in this first episode, the world that he created, given everything that happened towards the end of that film, is still in play. This episode takes place immediately, like days, weeks after all of the stuff that happened with the stadium and the waters and the floods. So go make sure that you're refreshed on that film in order for you to understand a lot of what's going on in the circumstances of these characters, because everyone is struggling. There's a lot of damage that has happened because of that, that's put everyone into these high stakes, into this pressure, and in this very heightened, elevated state of we need to fix, we need to get, we need to have. So just make sure you watch that so you have that emotional background on it. The two comic book series that you need to be familiar with is The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. Long Halloween comes first. Dark Victory is the sequel to Long Halloween. The Long Halloween is essentially the calendar killings, and I say calendar because there is a calendar villain, but he actually was not the villain. In that comic series, the Falcons are on top, but they want to find a place to embezzle their money, and they want to do that through the Gotham City Bank, but unfortunately they need a lot of the bank board members and the wealthy elite to approve that. Batman, Bruce Wayne, obviously don't want that to happen. It does end up the board agrees, but then the board director is murdered by one of the nephews of Carmine Falcone. But then that same cousin, Johnny Viti, ends up getting murdered on Halloween. And thus begins a bunch of murders that happen on the subsequent holidays, leading up to New Year's, when Alberto Falcone is murdered or shot. But then we end up learning that it was a two-parter. Number one, Alberto Falcone was the calendar killer. And then number two, it turns out that Harvey Dent's wife was the true villain behind everything. She was hoping that if she offed a bunch of these mafia members, it would lighten Harvey Dent's load and then he would be home for dinner. It was a whole thing. Dark Victory, however, Sofia Falcone has been taking over the Falcone Empire after it's been crumbling at this point. And Sofia is actually in a wheelchair after Catwoman kicked her butt in The Long Halloween. It's a whole thing. Two of the Maroni family break into Arkham, where Harvey Dent and Alberto Falcone are. Due to Alberto's help during that raid, he actually gets parole. But then killings start beginning again, only this time it's Gotham City police officers, crooked or not. Come to find out that Sofia, who was faking her injuries and actually was not a paraplegic, was killing off any officer who helped Harvey Dent get to the position that he was in as district attorney. Because of her murders, she got the title of the Hangman, because every single one of the bodies that she left behind, she gave a crude hangman drawing that led them to believe that Harvey Dent was the person responsible for the killings. And thus, we come to the Batman show. So if you watch those and you get that understanding, you will now know what we were talking about and what they're talking about in the Batman show. But as I was saying, this is just a really gritty and raw show. Spoilers. This is the spoiler part. I want to get into the spoiler part because I want to talk about this. So if you haven't watched it yet, pause the video here and go. The way the Penguin murderized Alberto Falcone within the first few minutes of this show, and then all you see is the Penguin, was just so cool. I honestly, everything I knew about the DC comics at that point, I'd out the window, because this is a whole new ball game now. I knew that Alberto Falcone had to go, and I knew that Sofia was going to be the big kingpin, because I love the idea of the Penguin and Sofia being at odds together. because the big thing about the Penguin is he's always seen as a weaker man. And even when he's in the car talking to his new apprentice, he lets them know, it's all a game. They bring me in and they beat me down so they feel stronger, and then I leave and I continue to do all of the work that they aren't doing. I run this. They may think that they do, but I'm the real kingpin in this. And he is and he isn't. He is and he isn't. But to have Sophia come in, this woman, because right now he's just been put down by a bunch of men. But now to have Sophia come in, especially given his mommy issues and how much he adores women, to have another woman come in and literally almost slice his arm off just to get to the answers. I love that, because right now, all of the men he's been able to play with, he's been able to manipulate and toy and use his fancy weakness and words, because that's the thing. If you appear weak, people will allow you to be weak. And he knows that. He knows that he could act meek and just slimy and small, and they will see him that way, even though he's not. But Sophia doesn't see him that way. She even whispers into his ear, I knew you had more potential. I knew it. And she knows. And that was her way of saying, I know you're a slimy son of a gun. And I know for a fact that you are capable of more than everyone else thinks here. And that's why she immediately was able to piece together, oh, you off my brother. I've been here 8 hours and I already know the game that's going on. And I love that. I love that these two are going to be, because they're both brilliant and they both are desperate to get what they want. One is, they're both clinically insane. One's just actually gone to Arkham. But it's very clear that Sophia will do anything that she deems necessary to get to where she wants and to get what she wants. They even acknowledge in this episode that she is the hangman. She is a killer let back out on the streets. That's Gotham, man. A convicted killer sent to Arkham has been rehabilitated and put back on the streets. I think that is the most insane thing about the DC world, is that they let these murderers back on the street to eat spaghetti. To just eat spaghetti. That's crazy. The last thing I want to note that I'm really excited for is the relationship between the Penguin and his new protege. When he told him, look at the sunset, and you could feel the Pobrecito just crying, like, I don't want to die. And I know his friend, who did end up dying, I know he ran home and was stressing. He was stressing. He was like, we were just trying to steal some hubcaps, but I also love the mentorship. It's like, I am so sad at everything. Cause I think that's what I mean when I was watching earlier. I think that's what I was trying to say earlier when I was talking about how I know the Penguin is a bad guy, but then there are moments where it's so endearing and it's so vulnerable and you want to be on his side. And then he goes and he does something else, taking in this child and having that speech about, I know where you live and I know that you probably lost a lot of people when your apartment collapsed and you're probably living on the street. But, stealing hubcaps is only going to get you so much money. Why would you do that? When instead, you can come with me and we can build an empire together. It's cool. I really, really, really love where this show is going. But again, make sure that you are in the right mental space to watch this, because it is very gory, very graphic, very dark, and it doesn't shy away from the darkness. This is a very gritty show, and HBO in itself does not shy away. So with a show like this, just make sure that you're in the right headspace, to absorb everything, because there's a lot of knowledge and it's all really cool, and just mentally in a good space, because it does get a lot. It does get a lot. Anyhoodle, that's all I'm going to say on this episode, because this video is long as heck as it is. Make sure that you watch it. Let me know in the comments what you're excited for, any characters that you're hoping that are going to see. Let me know if you read The Long Halloween or Dark Victory, and let me know in the comments what you thought about that. Until then, I will see you guys for the next video.